Welcome back, everybody. It is that time of year again. We are back with another episode of Speak Now. We are minus Steve today, but it is Eli and myself. Glad to be back. Glad to have the NFL season underway. As baseball continues to get closer to the postseason, we'll talk about that as well. But right now, we're on the high of Week 1. One of us probably more so than the other. Eli, yeah, how are you feeling about football being back?
I like football regardless, so I'll never complain. It takes up pretty much three of my days every week, so I won't complain. It wasn't a good Sunday, I will say. I didn't do well in fantasy football. Michigan lost Saturday to compound everything. Central Michigan lost where I'm going to school, and then the Lions were arguably one of the worst five teams of week one. So, but it's also week one. There's a lot of teams I'd argue didn't look good that were supposed to. So I'm not gonna going over to our one of our segments that we aren't getting to yet, but I'm not gonna overreact yet. But the Lions did not look good. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I'm like at that point now in my fandom where I'm trying not to like read too much into what we see week one. Even like when it comes to fantasy football, like a lot of people in our league putting in for like whether it's like Hollywood Brown or like Quentin Johnson or like whatever Harold Fannin. It's like I don't want to like go because in each of our leagues we have $100 to spend on waivers, and it's like I don't want to go bid like half my money there in week one. Just have those guys be. Obviously, it worked out for me a couple years ago with Puka, who was still on my team, thankfully, because of that. But then you look at last year with Ben taking Isaiah Likely, paying like his entire like thing. Obviously, didn't affect Ben in the long haul, unfortunately, but yeah, it's like I don't want to overreact. We will get into overreactions uh, here, but first we got to talk about the game of the week. Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens. What a what a treat that game was.
Yeah, that was a game, and I'd argue is probably the second best game of going from like the last 10 years. I think the only one that comes to mind right away, there's probably a couple other ones, but that Rams Chiefs game, I think it was 2018. I think that was the only one that would rival it. Back when it was like Thursday night in the color rush uniforms, when those two teams scored like 100 points combined. That is the only one, but like the up and down roller coaster of that game, that's a epitome of a primetime game.
Yeah, I was looking back at the highlights in preparation for this segment, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I know a lot of people out there are suggesting this isn't probably going to be the only time we see these two teams play. I think a lot of people think this is going to be the game for the Super Bowl in a few months. I think I disagree on that. I think it's just there's a lot of football left to be played. I'm not gonna go that route yet, but glad that the NFL gave us these week one games. I know a lot of people were complaining about divisional opponents going against each other this early in the season, but it made for some entertaining football.
Yeah, I feel like for one, people always find something to complain about. My thing is for one, football's back. For two, if you think about it now, it's just under half now, but teams have to play half their games against divisional opponents. So, they have to go in at some point. So I think some teams playing them, it's just how the schedule works. Like, you can complain about it all you want, but it's half of your team's games. So what, do you want to see them backloaded at the end of the year? Or do you want to see them just kind of more evenly spread out? Because, if the Lions play like three of their last four games against divisional opponents, to me, I mean, I get why you have them at the end too, but it's like there is a nice thing in having some variety in the schedule. Because I have to see you see those teams twice a year. Like sometimes it's nice to have little shift.
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially as the NFL probably moves towards eventually doing an 18 game schedule, two bye weeks, getting games on as many nights as they can, whether it's like having consistently be Thursday, Friday, Sunday, or Monday and all that kind of stuff. Like eventually, like you're in order to have certain days be much must watch football, like you're gonna have to put some entertaining games on earlier in the schedule, get people to stay engaged throughout the season. Yeah, you what you don't want to turn into, which luckily there's only 17, maybe 18 games in the future. You don't want to turn into baseball or the NBA where it's like there's certain points of the season where it's just like people aren't really tuning in because it's not as entertaining, doesn't matter as much. Yeah, in football that's harder to come by, but you definitely don't want to have that week one. And you don't want to have that early in the season. You want to keep that high momentum. But yeah, going back to Buffalo, Baltimore, uh, we wanted to talk about you brought this segment up. If correct me if I'm wrong, it's who was the is it a bigger loss for the Ravens to have lost that game or a bigger dub on the Bills to have won the game?
Yeah, it's essentially as I was like, am I impressed by the Bills or disappointed in the
Hmm.
Ravens? And I mean, it's such a roller coaster to think about that because you're like, wow, the Bills were down double digits going into that fourth quarter. And not only that, but the Ravens commanded the ball. With the Ravens had the ball with a two possession lead. Or was it? I think it was eight. It was 8 points actually, because the Bills missed the 2 point conversion. But they had 8 point lead with like 2:50 remaining, and they managed to lose that game. To me, like just starting it out, I was 100% more disappointed in the Ravens because I think they have the best roster in the NFL. Um, but I feel like there's been a couple years in the last five where I think they have the best team, but there's a couple aspects of their team where it falters. I think John Harbaugh is a big aspect of that because he can't seem to close out games he's supposed to win. Like I think there was like 10 instances where he's like a 90% win chance and they've blown it. And it's like they've blown it against like teams like the Jags, the Browns. But there's two main things why I was most disappointed in the Ravens. For one, when Derrick Henry fumbled the ball, which by itself was shocking, especially he had such a good game. Like Derrick Henry, all time running back, he's getting into like top five territory all time. A fumble, but you look when that play happened, Lamar snaps the ball with 23 seconds on the play clock. And you see that not only could you have burned another 20 seconds, but I never understand. There's 250 remaining. The Bills still had all three timeouts at that time. And snapping and then Henry fumbling, you preserve all three Bills timeouts, which then led to the next drive. The Bills have the three timeouts, they use them, and you have 4th and 2 for John Harbaugh. You could seal the game where you have the two most dynamic runners in the NFL, arguably, in Lamar and Derrick Henry, and you punt it on 4th and 2 and give it to arguably the most electric quarterback in the NFL with no timeouts, but a minute 30 for Josh Allen is like, and another quarterback having 40 or having like 2:30. Like Josh Allen moves at a pace quicker than anybody. So for me, those are the two things where I'm like, I'm just disappointed in the Ravens because they had the game by the balls and then they dropped it completely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. It's yeah, again going back to it's like how do you as the Baltimore Ravens, a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, wanting to be like one of the elite teams in the NFL, which they still will be, I think. But how do you not close that game out? They had so many chances to close that game out. When watching that game and watching highlights and replays and stuff like that is like what I took away from that is Baltimore just kept giving Buffalo like a chance to fight. Like Buffalo did credit to them. Buffalo did not stop fighting in that game. I know Josh Allen called out the fans leaving early and don't blame him because like watching that game, man, it's like they did not look out of it, even if they were down 15 points multiple times in the fourth quarter, like even like with like under five to go. Um, yeah, Baltimore in many ways just let them stay in this game. To your point, like I don't understand why you don't at least try to go for it on 4th and 2. Also talk about Kyle Van Noy, like getting like the interception, I believe, and then like could have took a knee in the end zone, instead takes it out to like the 2 yard line and like then takes a knee. Like that was one of the more that's on like the level of like the Bears like kicking it to the Vikings and letting them run it past the 2 minute warning. Man, that was ridiculous. Yeah, and if you're Baltimore, you can't do that. So if I know it's early in the season and they're going to clean a lot of that stuff up. They did that last year. Their defense did not look good early in the season last year, and they cleaned a lot of that up. But yeah, this is talk about John Harbaugh. Like this is stuff that's like plagued him now for years. He's building that reputation, almost like a Mike Tomlin. I think in many respects is like these well-respected coaches that have like so many like wins under their belt, Super Bowl. Um, but now as it gets later into their coaching careers, there's a lot of question marks being, can they still be that guy? Yeah, I'm definitely, I think the Bills right now are just show that they're the best team. Not, I'm not, yeah, I'm really high on Josh Allen. I think I am more impressed with the Bills, just the fact that they did not quit. Josh Allen just looked better than he's ever had, in my opinion. Just a lot of those throws, man. He just looks like he is on a whole nother planet right now. He to me, he is that game separates him from like the conversation of who's the best quarterback. To me, it's him, and then there's like the tier below him now. Like he is in his own tier after that game.
Yeah, and I think another thing that will unlock the Bills is Keon Coleman's fourth quarter. We saw he didn't really do anything before that. There was the common like you throw it to Shakir. James Cook is a good receiving back, which he deservedly got his extension. He had that long catch and run. He's a big piece for them. But Keon Coleman, I think, is a big thing where Josh Allen had that Stephon Diggs connection. Once he started getting it going, because Josh Allen early in his career struggled with turnovers, didn't really have the weapons, but then you get him Stephon Diggs, and now if Keon Coleman, he's a different player than Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs was a route runner, really polished, smaller guy. Keon Coleman, like it said, his route separation was zero. You watch that game, technically he doesn't have the separation of guys like Puka Nacua or guys like that, but that's not really who he is separation wise. Like he is going to be a guy, if he just gets just a little bit of room, he's the taller guy. He's like Megatron, had guys on his back, but he caught the ball because of his stature. And Keon Coleman, I think, that's what you knew you were getting out of him coming from Florida State and Michigan State. So I'm not really sure why people are bashing him for that because that's guys like I compare him to a guy like AJ Green who dominated for a while, who's just physical stature and had good speed, but didn't necessarily separate. So I think that's a big thing for the Bills. Where if there was one area where I'd maybe lean towards being impressed by the Bills, I think it was because Keon Coleman, because that really elevates their game.
Yeah, and like I think we're going to be having this conversation throughout the season. Is it more Josh Allen elevating the players around him, or is it these guys kind of coming into their own? Because I'll admit that I feel like I was wrong on Keon Coleman. I was pretty low on him after last year. I thought of him as a fantasy sleeper this year. Thought about drafting him in one of the later rounds, and I kind of talked myself out of it. And now I'm starting to regret that. But early in the season, James Cook. I thought James Cook was kind of going to be a 1 year wonder. Didn't think that he was going to be as impressive as he looked last night. But yeah, kudos to like credit to the Bills. They have really put a good team around Josh Allen, and a lot of it players that have like just fit playing with him. I think because like Stephon Diggs in his prime is still better than any of these skill position players that they have currently. But I think the players that they have right now is just a better fit for what they're trying to do on offense.
Yeah, 100%. And like we said, it's week one. I mean, there's been guys who've gone off week one and you don't see much from them. So it's seeing that consistency too. I mean, we saw Kayshawn Booty put up a really big performance, which he was one of those big waiver wire uh, ads that you're like, maybe, but you have to look at snap count for that and see Stephon Diggs wasn't super involved yet in that category, which I feel like that's mentioning Kayshawn Booty. I feel like it's a good segue in terms of let's check out our overreactions after week one because people in fantasy overreact trying to get that next gem after week one. There's guys like Kareem Hunt that people have grabbed, and then obviously Puka Nakua is probably the most recent one. Last year was a pretty bad year for waivers, based off what I can remember. But in terms of the actual NFL and the play, getting outside fantasy football, I guess what's your first overreaction just watching week one? Just something that was like, it's week one, and I think this right now, and it probably won't stand.
Yeah. I'm sticking with the Bills here. After this, Bills are going to go 17-0 this season, and they will lose in the Super Bowl, much like the Pats did. So they're going to lose to some like 9-8, 10-7 team that like just grits their way to the Super Bowl, but they will have a undefeated regular season this year.
I don't mind that. Like just thinking about, obviously it's far fetched to think a team will go undefeated, but I mean we did have 2 15-2 teams last year, but their division is putrid. The Jets looked better, and then the Patriots looked all right as well. But I mean the Dolphins were horrible, and you get to play them 8 times. So I mean, you don't want to say that's eight. That's not 8 times, 6 times. You don't want to say that's a win right away, but I don't mind that because of the division they're in.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and like with Josh Allen's obviously his start streak is such a big talking point. Like he's gonna play in like all these games. Yeah, obviously once they get to like week 18, like yeah, he'll probably take like the first like snap or take the first drive if they are like 16-0. I'd have to look at their schedule to see who they're actually playing, but yeah, it's not unrealistic, but I think for a week one reaction, that is little out there to say, hey, these guys are going undefeated. What about you? What's one overreaction you got?
You started out pretty hot, so I'll go with my hottest one. Based off of the Monday night game, I am saying JJ McCarthy is the second best quarterback from the 2024 NFL draft class. Obviously, there's other guys that started still, Drake May and Michael Penix, and then Bo Nix. It's a really good class if you look at it. Like they could take up 5 of the 32 quarterback slots, which from a draft class, that's a pretty substantial amount if if they're 5 franchise quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels is the one, and he would need to probably have a full season of poor performance for me to even think about taking him off after last year. But JJ McCarthy in that second half, the reason I'll kind of forgive the first half, it was his first game in 600 days. Not even first game in the NFL, but first football game in 600 days.
Mhm.
So there's growing pains, and I don't think the Bears have a horrible defense. Um, I do think that they were missing some secondary pieces, which I think you saw that in the second half. But the Bears aren't a horrible test for him. I think the fact that he really adjusted, he started to find Justin Jefferson, and he put some really good throws in the pot. He had really good pocket presence on a couple of the throws to Jefferson, and to Aaron Jones on that deep wheel route that he had for that touchdown. And then just to take the lead, you can tell the confidence that Kevin O'Connell already has in him. And to me, Kevin O'Connell might be the new quarterback whisperer. Sam Darnold looked unbelievable under Kevin O'Connell. I still think Dan Campbell's a better coach, bias. But I think Kevin O'Connell is a perfect fit for McCarthy. I think it opens up that offense again, to go of a more balanced attack than they did last year because of his threat with his legs that Darnold doesn't necessarily have. But I think McCarthy, just his extreme, he pretty much showed he can take adversity after that pick six. So for me, I think from now on, I don't think he'll plateau. I think he's going to keep going up. I don't want to say the Vikings will be good because that kind of goes against the team I root for, but I think JJ McCarthy is right now the second best quarterback already in that
Yeah,
class.
yeah. I mean, we're looking at a reality here where Caleb Williams might end up having the worst career out of like those first round quarterbacks from that class. Between like Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, like not saying that Caleb Williams is like not talented, super uberly talented, but Yeah, it just that quarterback class is aging very nicely. For those guys. Yeah, I just keep thinking back. I keep for JJ McCarthy. I think of two things. Really, it's what the 64-3 record or whatever since like high school. And then there's like the story that I believe it was Aaron Jones went on a podcast after the game talking about JJ McCarthy while they were down, like losing in like the third or fourth quarter. And JJ McCarthy in the huddle is just like, "Is there any other place you'd rather be right now?" Like just like legendary stuff. So I will build off your overreaction. My next overreaction is JJ McCarthy will win the Super Bowl on his rookie contract.
Wow. I hate to hear that because it's the Vikings, but I don't mind it just because I think they have a really good team around them. Um, I think they're set up well. I think free agency wise, they've done really well. I think like the Andrew Van Ginkel signing is arguably one of the best signings over the last couple of years, if you look at it. So I don't hate it. I think the tough thing is how hard of a division they're in because I mean the Packers with their really aggressive trade for Parsons, they have a 3 year window where I think they'll be uber competitive. I think their window shrunk with the Parsons trade, but I think the window where they did get them is going to be really good. And then the Lions, I think will be. I still think the Lions have probably a 3 to 5 year window where they'll be competitive based off their current roster structure. So I don't mind it. I just think McCarthy it's an overreaction. So I can see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I mean McCarthy to me, not saying that he is going to be Tom Brady, but he just there's so much there that reminds me of Tom Brady in the sense of just that competitiveness, the that winningness. Obviously, he's a Michigan man. Obviously, it'd be such a stretch to put him in that conversation. Not like Will Howard is another guy that we haven't seen him play an NFL snap, but like Will Howard, I feel like is like that. Maybe these guys can be like rivals in the NFL for years to come. But yeah, I mean, I've seen the script for the NFL this year. It's going to be Packers versus Steelers Super Bowl. Uh, Aaron Rodgers in his hometown team's stadium, going against his former team, beating them. The team that he led to the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like that's the NFL script for this year. But in the next like 3 ish years, JJ McCarthy will get a ring.
It's definitely bull. The JJ McCarthy love is high. I think. I mean, you watch him in college too. He just had that poise. And the reports that he couldn't throw, I think, were just preposterous because he's playing on Michigan, who's never been a team that's been like a pass first offense in college. So it's a little,
He had the one touchdown pass to Jetta where he like just whipped it into like this like tight window, like Bears defenders like crashing in. I was like, oh, like where was this at Michigan? Like
yeah.
they didn't need to do that. But yeah, he clearly can pass. I'll be interested to see like what his stat line is when he like has to put up like gaudy pass numbers like in one of these weeks. Like that'd be pretty awesome. But yeah. What about you? What's another overreaction?
Yeah, I feel like I'll put the cherry on top for this segment with probably I think probably the least overreaction out of all of them. But I have to shout the guy out. I think Tyler Warren's already a top three tight end in the NFL. I don't think it's necessarily. I think just because he's only played 1 week, it's probably why it's an overreaction. But the flurry of tight end products coming out of college is just unbelievable right now. I mean, you have Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, and Tyler Warren coming out the last 3 years, and there's a couple other guys you could. I mean, Colston Loveland could be really good. He's less involved, but Tyler Warren. I mean, the Colts had a fantastic running game, and he's a product. Tyler Warren's a fantastic blocker. Then you're like, oh, he's a blocking first tight end. No, I'd argue his best facet is like this guy is arguably more athletic than Brock Bowers when you watch him because him after the catch is unbelievable. Where I think Bowers has that route running ability and he's pretty quick, but Tyler Warren in the open field is unbelievable. He had what 7 catches for 76 yards. I think he's just all around polished already, and he's going to make the Colts a contender. Which just adding on to, I do think the Colts win that division this year. Not only because it's a horrible division, that division stinks. The Jaguars, who knows, maybe they'll come back to what they were 2 or 3 years ago. But to me, Tyler Warren is a top three tight end. And I think him and Danny Dimes could be something special.
Dude, I we were kind of dogging on Steve with the whole two tight end strategy that he did in fantasy. Like he did it last year with Kittle and Bowers, and this year now Bowers and Warren. And we were kind of like, oh, that's not going to work. I think we're wrong. I have Kittle, and obviously Kittle went down with an injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks, and that sucks. Dude, I was like so close to texting Steve and just being like, "Hey, you want to trade Tyler Warren?" Knowing that that wouldn't be a reality for him. But no, I was really tempted for an overreaction to put like Danny Dimes, like MVP finalists, all that kind of stuff. But that just feels like I'd be like bandwagoning off the Pat McAfee show. I know Pat and the boys have been really hype on Danny Dimes lately, so that didn't quite make it into my segment. But nah, I mean it's hard, man. You got Kittle, you got Laporta, you got um, Bowers and all these different guys. But yeah, I think Tyler Warren by the end of the season, I don't think that that's too far of an overreaction. I think that's definitely in the realm of possibility. So you closed it out tame. I'm gonna close it out with maybe the spiciest one. It's up there with the JJ McCarthy, but I think this is gonna be your least favorite. Lions and Chiefs missed the playoffs this year.
It's crossed my mind. Um, I hate to admit it, but I do think the Lions are going on like the path that the Eagles took 2 years ago, where they lost both coordinators. I know people say it isn't a big deal. Johnny Morton's not the answer. I'll just add on to the overreaction. I do feel like the offense will open up for the Lions. I don't foresee them being. I mean, you watch like the film, and it was unbelievable how they got blanketed in that game. Uh, but I just think there were so many intermediate routes. I got to see more games, but I don't. I don't like it in the prospect of me being a Lions fan, but I also don't hate the take in terms of being just a an, a bystander, not being a Lions fan.
Yeah, I took a huge risk with Jameer Gibbs, number one overall in our Haas's draft, and I don't regret it. Honestly, it came down for me being like, who do I want to root for the most? I thought Gibbs and Bijan were very close, and then I didn't think Chase was going to repeat what he did, so I was like, I want to root for Gibbs. Um, yeah, I think my biggest concern with the Lions, obviously, the coordinator change is huge. Honestly, I Ben Johnson between him and Aaron Glenn actually looked the roughest as a head coach. I thought Glenn looked amazing as a head coach. I think, yeah, I think the Jets will make the playoffs under his tenure at some point. Like they're definitely ascending. The Bears after that loss are a lot of question marks there. And I know Ben Johnson had like a questionable timeout, like at one point in that game and stuff like that. It's just those are things he'll have to learn. But I think my biggest concern for the Lions is the interior offensive line. Obviously, losing Frank Ragnow is just we knew that that was going to be a huge blow. I'm even more concerned, but yeah, I think that this might be, to your point, a transition year for them, and I think for the Chiefs to bring them in because I feel like I had to add that to really layer this in. Man, dude, the Chargers look nice against them, and I think the Broncos are only going to be better. I thought the offense was shocked by the Tennessee defense. I didn't think they probably didn't think Tennessee was going to be as good on defense as they looked on Sunday, but Broncos offense is only going to ascend, and their defense is like one of the best in the league. So I think those two teams make it, and the Raiders, dude, I don't want to count them out with Pete Carroll. Like I almost went really hard into this and said both teams will finish last in their division, but I think that's way too far in left field. Like I don't think that the Bears are going to supplant the Lions. I think the Vikings will be an interesting challenge. And I don't think the Raiders are going to come in anywhere near close to the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs at some point will figure this out and probably go like 9-8, 10-7, but it might not be good enough to make the playoffs in a really tight AFC race.
No, and I think the NFC is the same argument. I think the NFC is slowly gaining traction again. In terms of the North is probably arguably the best division in the NFL. Um, even I think the NFC East, I think the Cowboys won't exactly. I think they'll won't be bad this year. And then you have the Eagles and Commanders. The South still kind of a mess, but I mean the Buccaneers. I feel like they're the clear one in that. But even the Falcons didn't look bad in that game. That was a weird game. The other two, the Saints and the Panthers, you can those are two we can forget about if we're going to be honest. Same with the Giants. Uh, but then you also have, I mean, the Cardinals are a team that you don't know with them. I think they hit a home run with Will Johnson. So I think that'll really help them because the defense has definitely held them back. And then you have the Seahawks, Niners, Rams. Those are four arguably potential playoff teams. So I do think it'll be tough with the Lions, especially since they have the second hardest schedule. I think it is. Like what they go from the Bears to playing the Ravens. Like I can see 0-3 just in the hindsight. Like it's not out of the question. And if that happens, I'll probably be eating a lot of Ben and Jerry's ice cream because I can't handle it again. I'm too used to winning now where it's like we have a bad season, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah. This is gonna be it's gonna be an interesting season. I mean, I don't want to see the Lions not make the playoffs. Like they're a fun team, but we're gonna have to see a little bit more. I mean, I'd be in the same boat with you if the Steelers end up losing against the Jets. Like I'd be very much questioning the trajectory of this season. I feel a lot better after squeaking out that win. And holy crap, I am so happy Jalen Ramsey is on our team, man. That what a freaking hit. But yeah, let us know in the comments, guys, what your overreactions are from week one. Do you agree or disagree with any of ours? Let us know how crazy some of ours were. But yeah, so we got about 7 minutes until Zoom kicks us off. Do you think we can get through pick'ems in that? All right,
Yeah, we'll rattle through.
all right, cool. So
We're
we're gonna
we're
do
doing
this.
spread, right?
Yeah, we're doing spread.
Okay.
So let me pull up ESPN.
I'm gonna say I got him. Do you want me to read off the first game?
Go for it.
All right, so Thursday night, arguably the best game of the week, we have the Packers against the Commanders, and the Packers are favored by 3.5 points.
Give me the Commanders.
We're on the same boat in that. I think versatile QB will throw off the Packers defense, which Jared Goff's not a versatile QB with his legs. So that's why I went Commanders.
Yeah, I could see that game coming down to like a field goal or something like that, which wouldn't cover the spread. So yeah, Commanders. After that, we have Bengals Jaguars.
I went with the upset on this one. This was one of my few upsets. I went with the Jags. I thought their defense actually looked really good. Foy Aluakon just won the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Give me the Jags for the upset. The Bengals did not look good week one. It's 3.5, so I think they could even lose by a field goal potentially.
You might have convinced me to change. I might come back to this before the week's over. I'm just going to take the safe bet right here with the Bengals, but you bring up some fair arguments there. So I might go there. This one I had a hard time with Giants Cowboys.
I it's -5.5 for the Cowboys. I went towards the Cowboys with it just because I think their defense didn't look bad, and Dak Prescott had a better week one than his stat showed.
I went the upset here with the Giants. I think Russ gets benched at some point in the game and Jackson Dart pops off. It might not be enough to secure a Giants win, but I think it covers the spread. All right. Revenge game in some sense, or a very high stakes game. Bears, Lions, Ben Johnson's return to Detroit. Spread is 5.5
Yeah,
plus.
and yep, 5.5. I'm going the Lions on this for the sake of, for one, I can't take 0-2. And for two, I think the offense with a more team defensive line, I think it's a big adjustment game. And I think Jameson Williams gets a long touchdown to secure the spread.
I think the Lions win this. I think the Bears cover the spread, so I did pick the Bears on this. But I do think Detroit wins. I just don't see it being a touchdown. I see it being a lot closer than that. Rams Titans. Again, another 5.5. Or
Easy. I'm going Rams.
yeah, same. Yeah, no questions there. A little tighter against the spread. Patriots at the Dolphins.
I can't believe the Patriots aren't favored in this. I think it's just a pick 'em because the Dolphins are home. So I will be going the Patriots plus 1.5. I think Drake may look better than Tua, and the Patriots have a solid defense.
Yeah, I'm going Dolphins here. I don't necessarily think that they're going to win, but when it's Patriots might must either win, tie, or lose by no more than a point. I just think that that's not going to. I could see the Patriots winning by like 2 touchdowns here, so I'm just going to pick the Dolphins in the event that somehow they look a lot better this week and they end up winning. But I do think Pats end up taking this game. 49ers at the Saints, 4.5.
I went with Niners pretty easy, but Purdy's injury is concerning.
Purdy's injury is concerning. I know that they really like Mac Jones. No Kittle being out is concerning, but Pearsall, McCaffrey, yeah, I'm taking the Niners here. Bills at the Jets, 6.5.
I went with the Jets just because the touchdown's pretty big, and I also think that the Bills secondary struggled last week, so I think Fields can at least keep it within that 6.5 threshold.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me from the Bills Ravens game is I don't know what to make of either one of their defenses. Like they both gave up 40 plus points. So I thought the Jets offense looked really well. I thought their pass rush looked really well. Obviously, against the Steelers, yeah, I'm going Jets here. I like that. All right, Seahawks, Steelers, 2.5.
I went with the Steelers, the favored team, just because I think the Seahawks offense is pretty incompetent this year. I think it will stay that way.
I would be more concerned if this was at Seattle. Seattle is traveling to Pittsburgh. I believe, yeah, Pittsburgh wins. They cover the spread. I don't want to underestimate Seattle's defense. I think they're going to be a really elite unit this year, but I do think this early in the season at Pittsburgh, give me Pittsburgh. This one was another hard one. Browns, Ravens, 12.5.
Yeah, I went with the Ravens at minus 12.5 simply because I think the Bengals were so incompetent that they made the Browns look better than they actually are.
I might end up switching this. I'm going Browns right now just because I think 12.5 is a lot. Not that the Ravens can't cover that. They won last year early in the season 28-3 against the Browns, but then later in the season, it was Browns ended up winning like 33-30 or something like that. So I could see this going either way. Yeah, again, I don't know what to make of Baltimore's defense yet, so we'll see. Colts, Broncos, 2.5.
Yeah, the Broncos are favored by that 2.5, but I like the Colts. I think this will be a low scoring game. Both defenses look good week one, and I'm going to go with the Colts with the upset.
Give me the Broncos. I'm not quite sold on the Colts yet until we see them performing against a better defense. Cardinals, Panthers, 6.5.
I went with the favored Cardinals. I think the Panthers are a pretty incompetent team again.
Panthers could arguably have the number one pick this year. So yeah, I'm going Cardinals. Uh, Eagles, Chiefs, 1.5.
This ended up being easier than I thought it would be looking at week two. I got the Eagles. I think in a pick 'em game, I think the Eagles are the easy and right pick.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Vikings, Falcons, 4.5.
I went with the Falcons plus 4.5. I think Penix played a really good game, and I think McCarthy might struggle in his second game
I
adjusting.
think McCarthy balls out this week. Give me the Vikings there. All right, last two we have the Texans, Bucks, 2.5.
I went with the underdog Bucks. I don't know why they're not favored.
I'm going Texans, going for a rebound game for CJ Stroud. Chargers, Raiders.
Chargers minus 3.5, I think was my easiest pick. I think the Chargers could vie for that one seed in the AFC.
100% agree with you there. All right. Yeah, we'll see how we do. We'll see how our picks work out. Thank you guys. We'll be back again next week with a new episode. We are back. So until then, Eli, you want to close us out?
Speak now. See you next week.
Peace.